So once we've done all this great work for our client, we've caused all this state of relaxation, we want to put a little tension back in, because right now what we've really done is really sedated his muscle system. So it's really pretty relaxed. And it can happen with certain clients that when they go to stand up, that they're so relaxed that they almost kind of lose their balance. So doing Tapotement can be a good thing to do. But Tapotement is, of the techniques that you use, Tapotement is probably one of the most dangerous in the way of, if you had a client who had a condition, like a neurological condition, like and it was causing a hypertonicity or a weakness, tension in the muscle. Doing Tapotement on a muscle that's already hypertonic, you're going to make it become more hypertonic. And that could be dangerous, because muscles are much more powerful than you can imagine if they go into full contraction. All right? So what we're going to be doing is we're going to do this technique's purpose is to try and stretch that spindle. So remember earlier on we talked about one of the other techniques. We said we don't want to stretch the spindle. Now this time in this technique, that's exactly what we want to do. We're going to try and stretch the spindle within the muscle to make it contract slightly. All right? So how we're going to do that is a couple different ways. Again, superficial, intermediate, deep. Okay? That's how you always want to think about your tissues. All right? So we're going to do a superficial type of a Tapotement technique. One of the most common ones we would use would be cupping. So think, when you do cupping, you're going to use this time now you are going to use the tips of your fingers, and you're going to use what's called the radial side of your border, or the palmar surface, or edge of your border, sometimes called. And it's going to make a cup. Just like when you cup water up out of a sink to wash your face, that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to create that cupping motion, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to do that. So the contact is going to be the tips of our fingers and the radial edge of our thumb, all right? And when we do the cupping technique, there should be enough of a hollow that we hear almost like a horse walking on water, like cupping type of a sound, or not on water, but on a good old English roadway, right? And you can hear that hollow type of sound as I do it, right? So that's more superficial. You can do it quite firm, right? If you are trying to do, it's called pummeling, when you do it really, really firm, and that tends to be more for people that have respiratory conditions, but that's something you would cover when you talk about a respiratory conditions down the road in your path lab, right? So we do that, so we do cupping, mostly the superficial. We would never do cupping on the hips or on the gluteal region, because it almost can feel like you're slapping their backside, and you don't want to do that. That could make a client very, very uncomfortable and cause you to end up in jail. So don't do that on the hips, all right? Because that's the #1 type of thing that gets charges related towards massage therapists, is doing techniques where clients aren't really uncomfortable with them. So that's cupping, and next what we're going to do is we're going to do hacking. So hacking is a technique that I would describe it as being done on the intermediate layer of muscle tissue. It's one that's done, what you're trying to do is if we think about the trapezius muscle here, for example, the trapezius muscle comes off of the spine of the scapula. It has long fibers that travel all the way down to T12, right? And we can find T12 really easy, because I'm just going to lay my fingers right along his spine like that, and I'm going to have him lift his head up. There you go. When he lifts his head up like that, I feel one part right underneath my thumb right there pulls down. That's T12 vertebra, right? So that's as far down. So these trapezius fibers are traveling all the way down from the spine of the scap all the way down to T12, and all the way along, all right, along the way, right? But they're on that type of an angle. So I want to use hacking. So I'm going to use hacking. For me, I find my hacking to be done, I want to be in alignment with the muscle fibers. So remember I said the muscle fibers are running this way. So what I want us to do, when I say this way, they're running on an angle from the spinous process up to the spine of the scapula. So what I want to do is I want to angle my hands like that. So that's the first thing. Kind of get your angle. Can you do it this way? Sure, you can do it this way. That's okay too. It's the same thing. It's just, you know, you're still trying to obtain the same effect, that angle on the tissues. I just find it a little easier this way. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to relax my hands. So I want to have my fingers just slightly bend, just a little bit loose, right? And I'm going to get you to see if you can hear this. Can you hear my one finger hitting the next finger? Kind of snapping together. That's what we want to do, is have that sound occurring. Then you can hear it there when I'm doing it. Now, we don't do Tapotement over bony prominences, so we have to be careful as we come up to areas. Right? Right? So I'm coming around the scapula here now because the fibers are relatively straight there. And now they're going to start to angle up again, back up to his occiput. Right? So that's where I want to get that hacking component. So the trick with hacking is you're trying to be in alignment with the muscle fibers. If I wanted to target maybe not so much the trapezius muscle, but I wanted to target the longissimus, well, that's the mid muscle of the erector spinae, and I can, again, go more in a direct alignment up above because its fibers are relatively straight. Right? So that's hacking. Again, try to stimulate muscle contraction by stimulating the spindle. Right? And then we have the forever controversial beating and pounding. And why I say controversial is because I never know which one is beating and which one is pounding, and I've read 10 different books that are always flipping them back and forth. But we'll just describe it this way. We're gonna do a compression technique where in one hand position, we're gonna use the ulnar border of our hand, like this, making a fist. And we're gonna use the ulnar border, and the other one is going to be the palm. The same hand is in the same position, same fist, but now we're going to turn it palm down, and we're going to do a type of beating or pounding that way. I never get the two straight. I always just accept I'm going to lose a point on that test question, right? So again, that's used for heavier muscle tissue. And again, you can adjust your pressure. Like here, I can do beating and pounding on his back. Sure, I can. I just have to be aware I'm using thinner muscle tissue, so I have to relax off on how much pressure I use. If I was to do it down here in his gluteals, and he's already given me the okay to do this, right? Now I'm going to use a heavier pressure, right? Right? To do the Tapotement, because it's a thicker muscle mass. I want to get down deeper and cause those muscles to fibers to contract. So that's Tapotement, right? That's the 3 phases of Tapotement, right? And your instructor, I'm sure, will probably point out other really important things like, you're doing Tapoment, you're not bending your elbows and you're not trying to do the karate chop that you see on TV, done poorly, unfortunately, right? It's not very high off of the tissue. We're not even really bending our elbows. It's kind of just elevating our wrists kind of up and down when we're doing Tapotement type techniques.